I always believed that swallowing my pride was just the tax I paid for marrying into the Harrow family, but the moment my mother-in-law's hand connected with my 8-year-old son's cheek, shattering the polite silence of her Thanksgiving dinner, the debt was canceled. I did not scream. I simply looked at the woman who thought she owned us and spoke 6 quiet words that burned her legacy to the ground. The tires of our station wagon crunched over the pristine white gravel of the driveway, a sound that always reminded me of bones breaking under heavy boots. We were entering the fictional town of Winding Birch, Pennsylvania, a place where the trees grew perfectly straight and the residents pruned their lives just as aggressively as their hedges. My stomach tightened, a familiar knot forming right beneath my ribs. It was the physical manifestation of entering Vivian Harrow's orbit. The house loomed ahead, a sprawling colonial beast of red brick and black shutters that seemed to judge our mid-range vehicle as we approached. It sat on 4 acres of manicured lawn that defied the November chill, remaining aggressively green while the rest of the state surrendered to the browns and grays of late autumn. Ethan reached across the center console and squeezed my hand. His palm was warm, but his grip was loose, distracted. "You are doing great." "Brooke," he said, keeping his eyes on the massive oak front door. "Just breathe. It is only one afternoon, 5 hours, tops, then we are back in the car, back to our lives, and we do not have to see her until Christmas." I looked at him, my husband. He had the same sharp jawline as his mother, the same dark eyes that could look soulful or calculating depending on the light. He was wearing the cashmere sweater I had bought him, the one that made him look softer, less like a Harrow, and more like the man I fell in love with in a dusty college library 10 years ago. "You promise you will stay close?" I asked, hating the tremor in my voice. "Last year, you disappeared into the den with your uncles for 2 hours and left me alone with her while she critiqued my choice of preschools." Ethan turned to me, offering that boyish, lopsided smile that usually melted my defenses. "I promise," he said. "I am your shield today. Glue. We are stuck together like glue." From the back seat, 8-year-old Liam kicked the back of the driver's seat. "Are we here? Is this Grandma's castle?" "It is just a house." "Sweetie," I said, turning to look at him. Liam was dressed in his miniature blazer and khakis, looking uncomfortable but adorable. He had my hair, unruly, light brown, and Ethan's eyes. He was clutching a piece of construction paper to his chest like a shield of his own. It was his gratitude card. He had spent 3 days working on it, his tongue poking out the corner of his mouth as he carefully marker-penned his letters. "Grandma said it is an estate," Liam corrected me, reciting the word carefully. Of course she did. "To Vivian Harrow. A house was where people lived. An estate was where legacies were curated." We parked between a glossy black luxury sedan and a vintage sports car that probably cost more than our entire mortgage. I took a deep breath, inhaling the scent of cold air and wood smoke as I stepped out. The air here even smelled different, expensive. Ethan grabbed the bottle of wine from the back, a vintage Vivian had subtly requested 3 months ago, and we walked up the stone path. Before we could even ring the bell, the heavy door swung open. Vivian stood there framed by the golden light of the foyer. She was 62 but looked a well-preserved 45. Thanks to excellent genetics and a surgeon in Manhattan, she claimed was just a dermatologist. She wore a deep burgundy dress that matched the season perfectly, her silver hair coiffed into a helmet of elegance that would not dare move in a windstorm. "Ethan!" she cried out, her voice a melodic chime that sounded welcoming to strangers but set my teeth on edge. She bypassed me completely to embrace her son, pulling him down for a kiss on the cheek. Then she descended on Liam, crouching down in a way that looked choreographed. "And here is my little prince. Look at you. You have grown a foot since July." Liam beamed under the attention. "Hi, Grandma." Finally, her eyes flicked to me. It was a cursory glance, the way one checks a smudge on a window pane. "Brooklyn," she said, "you made good time. Traffic can be dreadful on the interstate." "We left early," I said, forcing a smile that felt tight on my face. "Happy Thanksgiving, Vivian." She gestured us inside. The foyer smelled of cinnamon and beeswax. It was stiflingly warm. Come in, come in. The ants are already in the solarium. I have had cook prepare those little crab cakes Ethan loves. I stepped across the threshold, and the heavy door clicked shut behind us, sealing us in. The first hour was a masterclass in psychological warfare. Vivian moved through the room of guests, mostly extended family and a few key local business figures, with the grace of a shark in a reef. She introduced me to people I had met 5 times before, always adding a modifier that diminished me. This is Brooklyn, Ethan's wife. She works part-time at the library in Ridgefield. It is so quaint that she gets to be around books all day. She made my career as a research archivist sound like I volunteered to read storybooks to toddlers. I corrected her the first 2 times, but by the third introduction, I just nodded. Ethan stayed true to his word for exactly 45 minutes. He stood by my side, his hand on the small of my back, deflecting Vivian's questions about when we were planning to upgrade our house. But then, the vibration sound buzzed in his pocket. He pulled his phone out, frowning. "It is the firm," he muttered. "Ethan, it is Thanksgiving." I whispered, "Ignore it." He looked at the screen, and his face paled. "It is the managing partner, Brooke. It is the Henderson merger. If I do not take this, I could lose the lead on the account." I looked at him, pleading silently, but I saw the shift in his eyes, the Harrow programming kicking in. Career first, appearance first, feelings second. "I have to take this," he said, already backing away. "I will be 10 minutes. Just 10 minutes." He vanished toward the library, leaving me standing alone by the fireplace with a glass of dry white wine I did not want. Almost instantly, the dynamic in the room shifted. It was as if Vivian had a radar for my isolation. She drifted over, her smile bright and predatory. "He works so hard, doesn't he?" She sighed, watching the door where Ethan had disappeared. "It is the burden of ambition. But then, you would not really know about that kind of pressure. Would you, dear? I work hard too." "Vivian," I said, keeping my voice level, "of course you do. In your way." She reached out and adjusted the strap of my dress. Her fingers were cold. "This fabric is interesting. Is it a blend? It hangs a little loosely. You know, posture is everything. Brooklyn, if you stand straight, even inexpensive clothes can look intentional." I stood straighter, instinctually, then hated myself for obeying. "And speaking of intentional," she continued, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, "I noticed Liam was using his fingers to eat an appetizer earlier. I know things are more relaxed in your household, but we are trying to teach him table manners that will serve him later in life. You do not want him to struggle when he enters society. Do you?" "He is 8. Vivian." "He was eating a pig in a blanket." She laughed, a tinkling, light sound that drew the attention of 3 people nearby. "Oh, you are so defensive. It is charming. Really, like a mother bear. I am simply offering some guidance. We all want what is best for Liam." She patted my arm and walked away before I could respond. I went to find Liam. He was in the den, showing his gratitude card to Great Aunt Martha. Martha was kind, partially deaf, and mostly there for the sherry, so she was a safe audience. "Look," Liam said, holding up the orange construction paper. "I drew a turkey, and here's what I'm thankful for." Vivian swept into the room, trailing a scent of lavender and judgment. "What do we have here?" she asked, clapping her hands together. "I made a card," Liam said proudly. Vivian took the card from his hands. She held it up to the light, squinting slightly. "Oh, Liam." The tone was not admiring. It was piteous. "What?" Liam asked, his smile faltering. She lowered the card and looked at him with a sad smile. "Honey, look at this handwriting. The G is backward. And look at the spacing here. It is all squashed together. He is learning cursive," I interjected, stepping forward. "It is a big step." Vivian ignored me. "We cannot display this on the mantel with the other decorations." "Liam, it looks a bit Messy. Tell you what. She walked over to a polished mahogany desk in the corner and pulled out a sheet of thick, cream-colored cardstock and a fountain pen. Why don't you sit here and redo it? I will help you with the letters. We want it to be perfect for when everyone sees it. Don't we? We want people to be impressed by how smart you are. Liam looked at his orange paper, then at the fancy cardstock. I like the orange one, he whispered. Vivian laughed, lightly touching his shoulder. Do not be silly. Orange is for pumpkins. Cream is for gentlemen. Sit down. Liam. She exerted a gentle pressure on his shoulder. Liam looked at me. I opened my mouth to tell him he didn't have to do it, but Vivian spoke first. Do it for Grandma? Please? It would make me so happy to show off your beautiful writing. Liam slumped, defeated by the guilt trip, and sat at the desk. Fine, he said. Good boy. Vivian cooed. She looked at me over her shoulder, her eyes glittering. It is just a little coaching. Brooklyn. He needs to learn that presentation matters. You do not want him settling for mediocrity, do you? I walked out of the room because if I stayed, I was going to throw a crystal vase into the fireplace. I wandered into the sunroom, trying to find a signal on my phone to text Ethan and tell him his 10 minutes were up an hour ago. I heard voices around the corner. It was Vivian again. She seemed to be everywhere at once, speaking to her sister-in-law. Clara. Yes, well, the tuition is steep, but the network is worth it, Vivian was saying. Oh, are they transferring him? Clara asked. I thought Brooklyn liked the public school in Ridgefield. Vivian let out a short, dismissive breath. Brooklyn likes what is easy, but I have been speaking with the headmaster at St. Jude's Prep. I told him to put me down as the primary contact for the application inquiries. It is just smoother that way, if Brooklyn handles it. The paperwork will sit on a kitchen counter for weeks. We need to get the ball rolling now if he's going to start in the fall. I froze. St. Jude's was a boarding school 2 hours away. We had never discussed sending Liam there, and she had listed herself as the primary contact? I stepped around the corner. Vivian? She turned, not looking startled in the least. She took a sip of her iced tea. Oh, hello, dear. We were just discussing the school system. I heard you mention St. Jude's, I said, keeping my voice steady despite the thumping in my ears. And that you listed yourself as a contact? She waved a hand airily. Just inquiring. Brooklyn. Just gathering information. No need to get hysterical. I simply want to know what options are available for my grandson. Is it a crime to care about his education? It is not your decision to make, I said, and you are not his parent. You should not be listing yourself as a contact on anything. She took a step closer to me. The warmth vanished from her face, replaced by a cold, hard porcelain stillness. Someone has to think about his future. Brooklyn. Ethan is too busy. And you? Well, you are doing your best, I am sure. But let's be honest, you are out of your depth. The Harrows have standards. Liam is a Harrow. He deserves the best, not whatever is convenient for you. Before I could respond, the dinner bell chimed. Shall we? She said, her smile snapping back into place like a loaded trap. We do not want the turkey to get dry. Dinner was a spectacle. The table was set with silver that was older than the country and crystal that caught the candlelight in fracturing prisms. There were 12 of us. Ethan had finally emerged from the library, looking harried and apologetic. He sat next to me, squeezing my knee under the table. Sorry, he whispered. It was a disaster. I had to put out a fire. I looked at him, seeing the sweat on his brow, and I didn't have the heart to tell him about the card or the school. Not yet. I just wanted to survive the meal. Vivian sat at the head of the table, commanding the room. She directed the conversation like a conductor. When Cousin Mark tried to talk about his motorcycle trip, she deftly pivoted the topic to the bond market. When Aunt Martha tried to tell a joke, Vivian spoke over her to compliment the wine. Midway through the meal, she tapped her spoon against her glass. The ringing sound silenced the room instantly. I have a little announcement, she said, beaming. Ethan stiffened beside me. He hated surprises. As many of you know, the Harrow family has always been dedicated to giving back to Winding Birch. It is our duty. Murmurs of agreement went around the table. Well, this year, I am launching a new initiative through the Harrow Hearthlight Foundation. We are calling it the Next Generation Legacy Fund. It will focus on youth leadership and moral development in the county. She paused for dramatic effect, looking directly at Liam, who was pushing peas around his plate. And I am so proud to say that I envision this being a family affair. I want Ethan and Liam to be the public faces of this campaign. 3 generations of Harrows, working together. I have already drafted the press release. My fork clattered against my plate. Vivian, Ethan said, clearing his throat. We didn't discuss this. Oh, don't be modest. Ethan, Vivian laughed. You are a partner at a top firm. You are a success story. And Liam? Liam is the future. It is time we started introducing him to the community properly, getting him involved in public service early. She wasn't asking. She was telling. She was drafting my son into a public role I wanted no part of. He is 8, I said. My voice sounded loud in the quiet room. He is 8 years old. Vivian, he is not a mascot for your foundation. The table went deadly silent. Vivian turned her head slowly to look at me. Mascot? What a crude word. I am talking about legacy. Brooklyn, something you might not understand. Considering your background, people in our position have responsibilities. She looked back at Liam, her eyes softening into that terrifying fake warmth. Liam understands. Don't you, sweetheart? You want to help Grandma help other children, don't you? Liam looked up, wide-eyed. He looked at me, then at Ethan, then at Vivian. I guess, he stammered. See? Vivian triumphed. He has a good heart. Then Liam spoke again, his voice clear and innocent. Grandma said I should call her first if anything ever happens. The sentence hung in the air. I felt the blood drain from my face. Ethan stopped chewing. What did you say? Buddy? Ethan asked, his voice low. Liam shrugged, taking a bite of a roll. Grandma said, when we were doing the card, she said if Mommy and Daddy are fighting, or if I am scared, or if anything happens at home, I should call her first. She gave me her private number to memorize. She said sometimes mommies get confused and grandmas know best. The silence that followed was not the polite silence of earlier. It was a vacuum. It sucked the air out of the room. I looked at Vivian. She didn't look embarrassed. She didn't look caught. She looked annoyed that her script had been read out of order. Ethan put his fork down. Mother? Vivian waved her napkin dismissively. Oh, honestly, you are all reading into it too much. I simply told the boy that I'm always here for him. Is it a crime to be a safety net? Children need to know they have options. Options? I repeated. You told him to call you if we argue? You told him I get confused? Vivian's eyes narrowed. Well, don't you? Look at you now. Brooklyn, getting flushed and emotional at the dinner table, making a scene in front of the guests. It is exactly what I worry about. She took a sip of wine, her gaze locking onto mine over the rim of the glass. It was a power move. She was gaslighting me in real time, using my reaction to her provocation as proof of my instability. I stood up. My legs were shaking. But I stood up. I am taking Liam to the bathroom, I said. I grabbed Liam's hand. He looked confused but followed me. Sit down. Brooklyn, Vivian commanded. Her voice was sharp now. We are not finished eating. I ignored her and walked out of the dining room. In the hallway, I knelt down and hugged Liam. I was trembling. Did I do something wrong? Liam asked, his voice wobbling. No, baby, no. You did the right thing telling us. You always tell Mommy and Daddy the truth. Okay? I splashed water on my face in the powder room, staring at myself in the mirror. I looked pale. I looked like prey. When I came out, Vivian was waiting for me in the corridor. She was alone. She blocked my path to the dining room. She was shorter than me, but she felt 10 feet tall. You need to get a hold of yourself, she said quietly. Her voice was sweet, sickly sweet. You are undermining me to my son, I whispered. You are telling him to keep secrets from us. I am ensuring his well-being. She countered. Ethan is busy. He works himself to the bone to support you. And you are clearly overwhelmed. I am just trying to help. Help? This isn't help. This is control. Vivian stepped closer. She smelled of expensive perfume and rot. Let me give you a piece of advice. Brooklyn, since you clearly have no one else to give it to you. She leaned in, her lips barely moving. People notice what kind of mother you are when you marry into a family like ours. They watch, they judge. And right now, they are seeing a woman who can't control her child, can't control her emotions, and can't fit in. If you make me the enemy, you will lose. I have been playing this game for 40 years. You have been here for 5 minutes. She patted my cheek. It was a slap disguised as a caress. Now, fix your hair. You look disheveled. She turned and walked back into the dining room, leaving me standing in the shadowed hallway. The rest of the night was a blur. We left as soon as dessert was finished. I couldn't stay another minute. As we were packing up the car, Vivian bustled out of the kitchen holding a plastic container. I packed you some leftovers, she chirped, loud enough for Ethan to hear as he loaded the trunk. I know you do not cook much during the week. Brooklyn, so this should help. She handed me the container. Thank you. Vivian, I said. Taking it, it felt light. We drove away in silence. Ethan was exhausted, rubbing his temples. Liam was asleep in the back within 5 minutes. I am sorry about the work call, Ethan said softly after we hit the highway, and I will talk to her about the foundation thing. She just gets excited. She told him to call her if I get confused. Ethan, I know. That was crossing a line. But she is just protective. She doesn't mean it maliciously. She just worries. He was doing it again, translating her toxicity into love. It was a survival mechanism he had learned in the crib. I looked down at the container in my lap. It was supposed to be the roast turkey and stuffing I had asked for, the only part of the meal I had actually enjoyed. I popped the lid open. Inside, there was a single scoop of dry mashed potatoes and the burnt ends of the Brussels sprouts that nobody had eaten. It wasn't a mistake. Vivian didn't make mistakes. It was a message. I control what you get. I control what you take. You leave with nothing unless I give it to you. I closed the lid and stared out the window at the dark trees rushing by. I realized then that the fight wasn't about leftovers, or handwriting, or even the foundation. Vivian was building a case. She was laying the groundwork to prove I was incompetent, unstable, and unnecessary. She didn't just want to control Liam. She wanted to replace me, and the terrifying part was, looking at Ethan's tired, conflict-averse profile in the driver's seat. I wasn't sure if I could stop her alone, but as I watched the mile markers tick by, a cold resolve settled in my chest. If she wanted a war, she was going to get one. I just needed to stop playing by her rules. I opened my phone and started a new note. I titled it, Thanksgiving Incident. I typed in the date. I typed in the quote about the phone call. I typed in the name, St. Jude's Prep. It was the first page of the paper trail that would eventually bury her. The silence in our house the day after Thanksgiving was heavy, the kind of thick, pressurized quiet that precedes a summer storm. We were back in Ridgefield Heights, miles away from the crushing gravity of Vivian's estate, but it felt like we had brought a piece of her atmosphere home with us, tucked into our luggage like a stowaway. Ethan was in the kitchen, brewing coffee with aggressive focus. He measured the grounds, poured the water, and stared at the machine as if it held the secrets to the universe. I sat at the island, watching his back. I could see the tension in his shoulders, the way his neck muscles bunched tight. He was waiting for me to drop it. He was hoping I would let the memory of the holiday fade into the general background noise of family dysfunction, but I could not let it go. Ethan, I said. He flinched, just slightly, before turning around with 2 mugs. Coffee? He offered. I bought the dark roast. I ignored the mug he slid toward me. We need to talk about what Liam said at dinner. Ethan sighed, a long exhale that deflated his posture. He leaned his hips against the counter, crossing his arms over his chest. This was his defensive stance. He was bracing for impact. Brooke, we talked about it in the car. She was just being Vivian. She oversteps. She always has. It is how she shows she cares. She wants to be involved. She told our 8-year-old son to call her if he gets scared of us. I said, keeping my voice level. She told him that mommies get confused. That is not overstepping. Ethan, that is undermining. That is planting seeds of doubt in a child's mind about his own parents. Ethan looked down at his coffee, swirling the black liquid. She did not mean it literally. He said, you know how she is. She is dramatic. She views herself as the matriarch of the dynasty. In her head, she is just establishing that she is a safety net. She is lonely. Brooklyn, Dad has been gone for 10 years. She pours all that energy into us because she has nowhere else to put it. I looked at my husband, really looked at him. I saw the little boy who had learned to survive by making excuses for a mother who demanded perfection. He had spent 34 years translating her insults into compliments and her control into love. It was a survival mechanism, a way to keep his world from shattering. But now, that mechanism was endangering our son. She is not lonely. Ethan, I said, she is calculating. She listed herself as the primary contact for a school we never agreed to send Liam to. She tried to shame him about his handwriting, and then she gave him a burner channel to contact her behind our backs. Ethan rubbed his face with one hand. I will talk to her, okay? I will call her this week and tell her to back off on the school stuff. But please, can we just decompress? It is a long weekend. I just want to enjoy my family without dissecting every comment my mother made. He looked so tired, so desperate for peace, and because I loved him, and because I was tired too, I let the conversation die. I nodded and took a sip of the coffee. Okay, I said, we will drop it for now. But I did not drop it. I just moved it underground. The weekend passed in a fragile truce. We took Liam to the park. We watched movies. We pretended that the specter of winding birch was not hovering over our roof. Then came Tuesday. I was at the library, archiving a stack of town council minutes from 1954, when my cell phone buzzed. It was the local area code. The caller ID read Ridgefield Elementary. My heart jumped. A call from school in the middle of the day usually meant a fever, a fall on the playground, or lice. Hello? This is Brooklyn, I answered, already grabbing my purse. Hello? Mrs. Mitchell, this is Sarah Jenkins in the main office. Do you have a moment? Her voice was bright, chirpy, not the somber tone of a medical emergency. I sat back down. Yes, of course. Is Liam okay? Oh, Liam is wonderful, Sarah said. He is actually in art class right now. I am calling because we wanted to personally thank you and Mr. Mitchell for the incredibly generous donation. I blinked at the dusty ledger in front of me. I am sorry? The donation, Sarah repeated. The checks arrived this morning via courier. $5,000 for the new STEM lab and another $5,000 for the playground renovation. It is the largest single gift we have received all year. Principal Henderson is over the moon. My hand tightened around the phone. $5,000? We did not have $10,000 of disposable income to drop on a Tuesday. We were saving for a kitchen remodel and putting money into Liam's college fund. Sarah, I said slowly, I think there has been a mistake. We did not send a check. There was a pause on the other end. The sound of papers shuffling. Oh, but I have the paperwork right here. It came with a cover letter from the Harrow Hearthlight Foundation, on behalf of the Mitchell family. It specifies that the donation is made in the name of Liam Mitchell, the Harrow Hearthlight Foundation. The air in the archive room suddenly felt very thin, and Sarah continued, sounding slightly confused now. We also received the signed consent forms for the donor recognition wall and the press release. We just needed to verify the spelling of Liam's middle name before we sent it to the local paper. Consent forms? I asked. My voice sounded hollow. Yes, the release forms allowing us to use Liam's photo and name in the district newsletter and the foundation's promotional materials. They were signed and returned with the check. I did not sign anything. I said, silence stretched on the line. Sarah's cheerful demeanor evaporated. Mrs. Mitchell, are you saying you did not authorize this? I am coming in. I said, do not process that check. Do not send anything to the newspaper. I will be there in 10 minutes. I drove to the school with a singular, cold focus. My hands were steady on the wheel, but my mind was racing. This was not a leftover container of dry potatoes. This was legal. This was financial. This was public. When I walked into the school office, Sarah Jenkins looked nervous. She was a young woman who liked order, and I was bringing chaos into her workspace. She gestured to the 2 chairs by her desk. Principal Henderson is in a meeting, but she said I could show you the file. She pushed a manila folder across the desk. I opened it. There was a glossy cover letter on heavy linen paper, embossed with the gold logo of the Harrow Hearthlight Foundation. The language was flowery, speaking of legacy and commitment to excellence, and there, at the bottom, were the checks. But it was the next document that made my blood run cold. It was a parental consent and media release form. My name, Brooklyn Mitchell, was typed neatly on the line for parent/guardian. Next to it was a signature. It was a jagged, looping scrawl that looked vaguely like mine. If I had signed it while riding a roller coaster, it was an imitation, and a bad one. I looked lower, under the section for authorized family representative. Another name was typed, Vivian Harrow, Director, Harrow Hearthlight Foundation. I stared at the paper. The audacity of it was breathtaking. She had forged my signature. She had used her charity to buy influence at my son's public school, and she had signed off on using his face to sell it. Mrs. Mitchell? Sarah asked gently. Is that your signature? No, I said. It is not. Sarah looked alarmed. Okay, well, we obviously cannot accept the donation under false pretenses, but the courier who dropped this off, he mentioned that Mrs. Harrow had already scheduled a photographer to come by on Thursday for the check presentation. There will be no photographer, I said, closing the folder, and there will be no check presentation. I need copies of all of this. Sarah, the letter, the check, the form, especially the form, I can make copies, she said. But Mrs. Mitchell, if Mrs. Harrow is the grandmother, maybe it was just a misunderstanding? A lack of communication? I looked at Sarah. She was trying to be helpful. She wanted to believe that families did not do things like this to each other. It was not a misunderstanding. I said, it was fraud. I walked out of the school with the photocopies clutched in my hand like a weapon. I sat in my car in the parking lot and called Ethan. He answered on the second ring. Hey, honey, everything okay? I found out about the donation. I said, what donation? $10,000 to Liam's school. From your mother's foundation, in Liam's name. Ethan was silent for a moment. 10,000? Wow, that is generous. I mean, it is a lot. But is that a bad thing? It helps the school, right? He was doing it again, finding the silver lining in the mushroom cloud. Ethan. She forged my signature on a media release form. The silence on the other end was longer this time. What? I am holding a copy of the consent form right now. My name is typed. The signature is a fake. She authorized the school to use Liam's photo for her foundation's PR. She set up a press conference for Thursday without telling us. That doesn't make sense. Ethan stammered. Why would she forge it? She probably just had her assistant sign it on your behalf because she thought you would agree. She knows we support the school. It is forgery. Ethan, I snapped. It is a crime. She signed my name. Look, Brooke, you are using very intense language. Forgery implies criminal intent. Mom would never. She would never do anything illegal. It is probably just a clerical error. Maybe her assistant got confused. I looked at the header on the email printout Sarah had given me. The email was sent from exec_assistharrowhearthlight.org. The body of the email read, Attached, please find the signed consent forms as authorized by the family. It was sent from her assistant. Yes, I said, but Vivian is the one who directs the assistant. Ethan, stop defending her. She is buying access to our son and using him as a prop. I am coming home, he said, We will talk about this. I drove home, my mind working like a tactical computer. I went straight to my laptop. I scanned the documents. I saved them to a cloud folder. I named the folder Evidence. Then I started a spreadsheet. Date, incident, witnesses, documentation. I entered the Thanksgiving comments. I entered the school donation. I entered the forged signature. My phone rang. The screen displayed Vivian Harrow. My stomach dropped, but I forced myself to answer. I needed to hear what she would say. I put it on speaker and opened the voice memo app on my husband's iPad, which was sitting on the counter. I hit record. Hello? Vivian? Brooklyn? Her voice was warm, dripping with artificial sweetener. How are you, dear? I assume the school called you? They did. I said, isn't it wonderful? I just had a surplus in the quarterly budget for the foundation, and I thought, what better way to invest it than in my grandson's future? I know that little public school struggles with funding, so I wanted to make sure Liam has everything he needs. You forged my signature. Vivian. The pause was instant. The warmth vanished. Excuse me? You signed my name on the consent form. You authorized a media release without asking me or Ethan. That is forgery. A low, condescending laugh filtered through the speaker. Oh, Brooklyn, do not be so dramatic. It is called a proxy. I simply expedited the paperwork so the funds could be released before the end of the fiscal month. I was doing you a favor. Most mothers would be thanking me for securing a STEM lab for their child. I did not ask for a favor, and I did not give you a proxy. I went to the school and pulled the forms. The donation is rejected. The silence that followed was different. It was cold. It was the silence of a predator realizing the prey has teeth. You rejected the money? She asked. Her voice was flat. I told them we did not authorize it, and I told them to remove your name from their files. You foolish girl. The venom in her voice was shocking. It was not the passive-aggressive tone of Thanksgiving. This was pure, unfiltered rage. You are embarrassing me. Brooklyn, I have already told the board about this initiative. I have stakeholders expecting to see that check presentation. That is not my problem. I said, it will be, she hissed. Do you think you can just embarrass the Harrow family in a town where my name is on the library? Do you think you can humiliate me? I am not trying to humiliate you. I am protecting my son. You are keeping him from his legacy. You are jealous. Brooklyn, you are jealous that I can provide things for him that you never could. You are small, and you are trying to make him small just like you. Vivian, I am hanging up. If you embarrass me again, she said, her voice dropping to a whisper that was more terrifying than a scream. You will regret it. I can make your life very difficult. Brooklyn, you have no idea what I am capable of when I am protecting this family from outside threats. And make no mistake, you are acting like an outside threat. The line went dead. I stood there, staring at the phone. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from clarity. She had just threatened me, explicitly. I saved the recording. I labeled it, Threat, November 30th. When Ethan came home, he looked like a man marching to the gallows. He saw the papers spread out on the kitchen island. He saw my face. She called. I said, he winced. What did she say? She admitted it. She said she expedited the paperwork. And then, when I told her I rejected the donation, she threatened me. Threatened you? Ethan asked, skeptically. How? She said if I embarrass her, I will regret it. She said I am an outside threat. Ethan sighed, dropping his keys on the counter. Brooke, she is upset. You rejected a $10,000 gift. Of course she feels attacked. She was trying to do something nice. Even if she went about it the wrong way, he was still doing it. Ethan, look at this. I shoved the forged signature toward him. This is not the wrong way. This is illegal. Ethan looked at the signature. He traced the jagged line with his finger. He couldn't deny it. It was right there in black and white. I will go see her, he said quietly. I will drive up there tomorrow. I will talk to her face to face. I will make her understand that she cannot do this. He did go. The next day, he took a personal day from work and drove the 2 hours to Winding Birch. I spent the day waiting, knotting my stomach into intricate shapes. I picked Liam up from school and watched him like a hawk. I was terrified she would show up. I told the school that under no circumstances was anyone other than me or Ethan allowed to pick him up. I gave them a picture of Vivian. "Mrs. Harrow?" Sarah Jenkins had asked, looking at the photo of the elegant woman. "Yes," I said. "She is not allowed access." When Ethan returned that evening, the sun was setting. He walked into the kitchen and poured himself a drink before he even took off his coat. "Well?" I asked. He turned to me. His eyes were red-rimmed. "She was a mess. Brooke." She was crying. "She said she just wanted to help. She feels like you are pushing her out of Liam's life. She showed me the nursery she is setting up for him at the estate, for when he visits. She has all his favorite books." He took a large swallow of whiskey. "She admitted she should not have signed the form." He continued, "She said she was just in a rush and made a bad judgment call, but she feels like you are demonizing her. She asked me why you hate her so much. I stared at him. She had turned it around. She had cried, shown him a nursery, and played the victim, and he had bought it. Ethan, did you tell her to stop?" "I told her we need boundaries. I told her no more signing things." She agreed. She promised. She just wants to be a grandmother. "Brooke, she is getting older. She is scared of being forgotten." He was emotionally managed. She had pressed his buttons like a pianist playing a concerto. She knew exactly how to make him feel guilty, how to make him feel responsible for her happiness. I realized then that I was alone. Ethan loved me, but he was incapable of fighting her. He was too deep in the fog. If I was going to protect Liam, I had to do it myself, and I had to do it with facts, not feelings. Feelings could be manipulated, facts could not. That night, after Ethan fell into a heavy, alcohol-aided sleep, I opened my laptop again. I typed Harrow Hearthlight Foundation into the search bar. The website was polished, beautiful photos of smiling children, black tie galas, and testimonials about community impact. It looked legitimate, but I started digging. I looked at the recent events page. There was a post about a summer literacy gala held in July. There were photos of people mingling, holding champagne flutes. I zoomed in on one of the photos. The banner in the background said, "Class of 2024," but the date of the post was July 2025. I right-clicked the image and did a reverse image search. It popped up on a stock photography website. Corporate cocktail event, outdoor. I frowned. Why would a local charity use stock photos for their own gala? I kept digging. I looked at the list of key donors. Some were recognizable local businesses, but others were vague. The Anderson Trust, Global Future Partners. I searched for the Anderson Trust in Pennsylvania. No record. I searched for Global Future Partners. It led to a shell website with no contact information, just a generic landing page. I looked at the testimonials. One was from a scholarship recipient named Marcus Thorne. "The Harrow Foundation changed my life." The quote read, "I searched for Marcus Thorne in Winding Birch. I searched the local high school graduation lists for the last 5 years. No Marcus Thorne." My heart began to hammer against my ribs. The foundation wasn't just a vanity project, it was a facade. She was funneling money through it, claiming donations, hosting fake events. But where was the money actually going? And where was it coming from? She had tried to use Liam as a prop for this. She wanted his face on a press release to legitimize a scam. I spent 3 hours taking screenshots. I archived the website. I downloaded their public tax filings, which looked deceptively simple. I was building a map of her lies. 2 days later, the letter arrived. It was thick, creamy envelope, similar to the one the donation had come in, but this one bore the return address of Caldwell Mott Legal Group. I opened it at the mailbox. My hands trembled slightly. "Dear Mr. and Mrs. Mitchell, we represent Mrs. Vivian Harrow regarding the welfare and visitation rights concerning her grandson, Liam Mitchell. It has come to our client's attention that there is an increasingly unstable environment within your home, characterized by emotional volatility and the alienation of extended family support systems. Mrs. Harrow is deeply concerned for the child's emotional development and stability. While it is our client's fervent wish to resolve these matters privately, please be advised that under Pennsylvania statutes regarding grandparents' visitation rights, Mrs. Harrow is prepared to petition the court to ensure she maintains a consistent and stabilizing presence in Liam's life. We suggest a meeting to establish a formal visitation schedule to avoid further legal escalation. Sincerely, Arthur Caldwell, Esquire. I stood in the driveway, the cold wind biting at my cheeks. It was not a request. It was a declaration of war. She was using the instability she had provoked, my reaction at Thanksgiving, my rejection of the donation, as evidence that I was unfit. She was twisting my boundaries into alienation. She did not just want to visit Liam. She wanted to establish a legal foothold in his life. She wanted rights. I looked at the house where Ethan was inside, probably watching football, thinking the storm had passed. I folded the letter and put it in my pocket. Vivian Harrow thought she could bully me with a letterhead. She thought she could crush me with the weight of her name and her expensive lawyers. She had no idea. She had just handed me the shovel, and I was going to use it to dig up every skeleton she had ever buried. The office of Marla Kent was not what I expected. When one imagines a family law attorney who specializes in high-conflict custody cases, one imagines glass walls, chrome furniture, and a view of the city skyline that screams intimidation. Marla's office was in a converted brick row house on the edge of the business district. It smelled of old paper and peppermint tea, and the furniture was mismatched, comfortable leather that had seen decades of nervous clients. Marla herself was a small woman with sharp, intelligent eyes and reading glasses that hung from a beaded chain around her neck. She read the letter from Caldwell and Mott in silence, her finger tracing the lines of text. Finally, she set the heavy cream paper down on her desk and looked at me. "This is not a legal filing." "Mrs. Mitchell," Marla said. Her voice was raspy, the voice of a woman who spent her days arguing in courtrooms. "This is a shot across the bow. It is designed to scare you." "It worked," I admitted, gripping my purse strap. "They are threatening grandparents' rights. They are saying I am unstable." Marla nodded, leaning back in her chair. "In Pennsylvania, grandparents have standing to petition for partial custody or visitation if the parents are divorced, separated, or if the child has lived with the grandparent for 12 months. You and your husband are married. You are living together. Liam has never lived with her. Legally, her case is weak, very weak." I felt a rush of relief, but Marla held up a hand. "However," she continued, "the law is only one part of the equation. This letter is not about the law. It is about establishing a narrative. They are using words like unstable and alienation to build a record. If she can provoke you into acting irrational, or if she can drive a wedge between you and your husband." She opens a door. She took off her glasses. "She is trying to create a conflict that necessitates court intervention. If you and your husband separate, even for a trial period, she can file immediately. Her goal right now is to stress your marriage until it cracks." I thought of Ethan, the way he flinched when her name came up, the way he drank his whiskey too fast the night before. "She is good at that." I said, "Here is what you are going to do," Marla said, pulling a yellow legal pad toward her. "You are going to treat this like a boundary dispute with legal shadows. Rule number 1, nothing verbal. If she calls, let it go to voicemail. If she corners you in public, you record it. If it is not written down." It did not happen. She wrote documentation in large block letters. Rule number 2, lock down the perimeter, the school, the doctors, the extracurriculars. You need to close every access point she has to your son. She does not get to pick him up. She does not get to call his teachers. She does not get to exist in his world unless you invite her. "I can do that," I said. "And rule number 3, Marla said, her eyes locking onto mine. You need to get your husband on the same page. If he wobbles, she wins. If he signs things without reading them, she wins. If he lets her whisper in his ear that you are being unreasonable, she wins. You are the gatekeeper now. Brooklyn. I left Marla's office with a plan, but the knot in my stomach remained. I knew the law was on my side, but Vivian Harrow did not operate within the law. She operated above it, in the rarefied air of wealth and influence where rules were just suggestions for poor people. My next stop was Ridgefield Elementary. The morning air was crisp, biting with the promise of snow. I walked into the main office, my heels clicking on the linoleum. Sarah Jenkins looked up from her computer, her expression shifting from professional politeness to mild alarm when she saw me. Mrs. Mitchell. She said, "Is everything okay? I need to update Liam's file." "Sarah," I said, keeping my voice calm but firm, "I need to make some changes to his emergency contact list and his pickup authorization." I handed her the written request Marla had helped me draft. It was clear, concise, and revoked all previous permissions for anyone other than Ethan and myself. "We are having some family issues," I said, deciding that vagueness was better than silence. Vivian Harrow is not to have any contact with Liam at school. No visits, no phone calls, no lunch drop-offs. If she shows up, I want you to call me immediately, and if she refuses to leave, I want you to call the police. Sarah's eyes widened. The police? Only if necessary. I said, but I need you to understand that she has no legal authority over my son. None. Sarah took the paper, looking uncomfortable. I understand. Mrs. Mitchell. I will put this in his permanent file right now. I actually intended to call you later today anyway. Why? I asked. Well, Mrs. Harrow called yesterday afternoon. She wanted to schedule a meeting with Principal Henderson to discuss Liam's enrichment opportunities for the spring semester. She mentioned something about funding a private tutor for advanced math. My blood temperature rose 3 degrees. She called yesterday? After I spoke to you about the donation fraud? Yes. Sarah said. She was very pleasant. She said she wanted to ensure Liam was being challenged enough. Principal Henderson tentatively put her on the calendar for next Tuesday. Cancel it. I said, cancel it now. She does not attend meetings about my son. She does not discuss his curriculum. I will, Sarah said quickly, typing on her keyboard. I will take it off right now. I walked out of the school feeling like I was plugging leaks in a dam with my bare hands. Every time I blocked one hole, water started spraying from another. She was relentless. She had been caught forging a signature, threatened with legal action, and her response was to call the principal and offer to hire a tutor? It was not just persistence, it was arrogance. She believed she knew what was best for Liam, and she believed I was just an obstacle to be managed. I drove home, my mind racing. I needed to talk to Ethan again. I needed to make him understand that we were under siege. But when I got to the mailbox at the end of our driveway, the war came to my doorstep. I pulled out the stack of mail, bills, coupons, a catalog, and a large, glossy mailer. It was a brochure for the Maple Ridge Education Alliance, a newly formed organization I had never heard of. The cardstock was thick, expensive. The headline read, Investing in Tomorrow's Leaders. And there, right in the center of the collage of smiling children, was my son. It was a photo taken at Thanksgiving. Liam was sitting at the heavy mahogany desk in Vivian's library, holding the fountain pen she had forced him to use. He looked small and serious, the cream-colored paper in front of him. The lighting was perfect. It looked like a stock photo for a prep school advertisement. Underneath his photo, the caption read, Liam, age 8, future scholar. I stood in the driveway, the wind whipping my hair across my face, and stared at the image. She had taken this photo while I was in the sunroom. She had staged it. She had forced him to redo his gratitude card, not just to shame him, but to get the shot. She had planned this. She had known exactly what she was going to use it for. I walked into the house, the brochure crumpled in my fist. Ethan was in the living room, folding laundry. He looked up, smiling when he saw me, but the smile died when he saw my face. What happened? He asked. I threw the brochure on the coffee table. Look at it. I said. Ethan picked it up. He squinted at the cover. The Education Alliance? I do not know what this is. Open it. Ethan. He opened the trifold brochure. His eyes scanned the photos. He stopped. Is that Liam? It is Liam, I said. It is the photo she took at Thanksgiving, when she made him rewrite his card because his handwriting was not good enough. She was not coaching him. Ethan. She was doing a photo shoot. Ethan stared at the image. I did not know she took this, he said softly. Did you sign a release? I asked. No, of course not. Brooke, I have not signed anything since we were there. Are you sure? I pressed. Think, Ethan, has she sent you anything? An email? A DocuSign link? Maybe something she said was for the trust fund? He shook his head vigorously. No, nothing. I swear. Then how is she doing this? I demanded. Pacing the rug. How is she printing mailers with his face on them? The printer would require a release for a minor. She cannot just do this. I grabbed my phone. I'm calling her. No, wait, Ethan said, reaching for me. Let me do it. No, I said, stepping back. You will let her talk you in circles. You will let her cry. I want answers. I dialed her number. She answered on the second ring. Hello? Remove the photo. Vivian, I said, no preamble. No pleasantries. There was a pause. Hello to you too. Brooklyn, I assume you received the announcement for the alliance? Isn't it lovely? It is illegal. I said, you do not have permission to use Liam's image. I want it recalled. I want every single brochure destroyed. Oh, stop it, she said, her voice sounding bored. You are being hysterical again. I have permission on file. No, you do not. I snapped. I did not sign anything. And Ethan says he didn't sign anything. Ask your husband about the refinancing paperwork from August, she said. The line went silent. I lowered the phone slowly. I looked at Ethan. The refinancing paperwork? I repeated. From August? Ethan's face went the color of ash. August? He whispered. I put the phone back to my ear. What are you talking about? Vivian? When I helped you two negotiate a better rate on your mortgage, she said, her voice dripping with satisfaction. There were a lot of documents to sign. Ethan was very busy with work. He trusted his mother to handle the administrative details. Included in that packet was a limited power of attorney regarding family assets and representation. My stomach dropped so hard I felt dizzy. That was for the loan. I said, it was a standard clause, she said lightly. It grants me the authority to make decisions regarding the management of family interests where the Harrow name is involved. And since Liam is a Harrow, and this alliance is a Harrow initiative, well, the lawyers assured me it is perfectly valid. You tricked him, I whispered. I helped him, she corrected. I handled the boring details so he could focus on his career. That is what I do. Brooklyn, I facilitate. Now, if you are quite finished screaming at me, I have a meeting with the mayor. She hung up. I stood there, the silence of the room deafening. I looked at Ethan. He had sunk onto the sofa, his head in his hands. Ethan? I said. He did not look up. I signed a stack of papers an inch thick. He mumbled. She sent over a notary. It was right during the Henderson merger. I was working 80-hour weeks. She said she found a bank offering a 0.5% lower rate. She said she would handle everything. And you did not read them? I read the loan amount, Ethan cried, looking up, his eyes wet. I read the interest rate. I didn't read every single page of the appendices. She is my mother, Brooklyn. Who thinks their mother is going to slip a power of attorney clause into a mortgage refinance? She does. I said, she does. Ethan stood up and kicked the laundry basket. Socks flew across the room. God, he shouted. God damn it. He began to pace, running his hands through his hair, pulling at the roots. I'm such an idiot. I'm such a child. She treats me like a child, and I act like one. I just signed it. I just signed it because I wanted her to stop emailing me about it. I watched him spiral. This was the cycle. I saw it now with crystal clarity. First, she created confusion or a problem. The mortgage rate, the legacy, the tuition. Then, she offered a solution. A lower rate, a donation, a plan. The solution always required surrender. You had to give up a little control to get the help. And once you gave up that control, she used it to hurt you. When you reacted to the hurt, she called you unstable. Ethan was not just a mama's boy, he was a victim of a decades-long confidence game. I walked over to him and grabbed his shoulders. He was shaking. "Ethan, look at me." He shook his head, refusing to meet my eyes. "I compromised us," he whispered. "I gave her the keys. We are going to take them back." I said, "But you have to stop beating yourself up, because that is part of her plan too. If you are drowning in shame, you cannot fight her, and I need you to fight." He looked at me then. He looked broken. "How?" he asked. "She has a legal document. We revoke it," I said. "We go to Marla Kent tomorrow. We revoke every power of attorney, every authorization, every proxy you have ever signed. We burn the paper trail." But the damage for the Alliance mailer was done. 5,000 households in our county had a picture of my son on their kitchen counters, advertising a lie. The next few weeks were a blur of legal maneuvers. We formally revoked the power of attorney. Marla sent a cease and desist letter regarding the use of Liam's image, demanding a retraction. Vivian's response was not legal. It was social. She did not sue us. She simply started talking. I began to get text messages from Ethan's sister, Sarah, who lived in California. "Hey, just checking in." Mom called and sounded really worried. She said you guys are going through a rough patch and acting a little erratic. She mentioned something about Brooklyn banning her from the school. Is everything okay? Then a call from Ethan's brother. "Mark, dude, what is going on?" Mom is crying on the phone saying she is blocked from seeing Liam. She says Brooklyn is having some kind of breakdown. She was painting me as the villain, the unstable mother. It was a narrative as old as time. The daughter-in-law who is jealous, hormonal, controlling, and keeping the loving grandmother away from her grandbaby out of spite. It was effective because it was simple. It required no nuance. Ethan tried to defend me. He called his siblings. He explained about the forgery, the power of attorney, but Vivian had gotten there first. "Oh, Ethan," Sarah said on the phone, her voice dripping with pity. "Mom told us you might say that. She said Brooklyn has you convinced that she is out to get you. It sounds like paranoia. Honestly, maybe you guys should see a therapist?" She had inoculated them against the truth. Any evidence we presented was just proof of our paranoia. I felt the walls closing in. We were isolated. The extended family was looking at us like we were a bomb waiting to go off. One evening, about 3 weeks after the mailer incident, I was sitting at the kitchen table. Ethan was upstairs putting Liam to bed. I had established a strict routine for Liam. No screens, lots of reading, calm environments. I wanted to prove, if only to myself, that our home was a sanctuary of stability. I was going through the evidence folder on my laptop. Organizing the files for Marla, I decided to do another search on the Harrow Hearthlight Foundation. I had set up a Google alert for the foundation's name. A few new hits had come up, mostly press releases about the Alliance. But then I saw a link to a PDF hosted on a public server. It looked like minutes from a town council meeting in a neighboring district, dating back 6 months. I opened it. It was a transcript of a zoning hearing. Vivian Harrow had been present, petitioning for a variance to expand a commercial property owned by a shell company. I scrolled through the dry text, and then I saw it. Mrs. Harrow noted that the property would be utilized for the future expansion of the Harrow Hearthlight educational initiatives, specifically a residential program for gifted youth. Residential? I frowned. She had never mentioned a residential program. I dug deeper. I started searching for the shell company listed in the zoning doc. Veritas Holdings, LLC. It led me to a digital paper trail of construction permits. And then, I found an email thread. It wasn't a public email. It was part of a leaked dump of municipal emails that had been posted on a local transparency watchdog site. A city clerk had been CC'd on a correspondence between Vivian's assistant and a contractor. The subject line was, "Scholarship Packet Logistics." I opened the cached version of the email. From exec_assist harrowhearth light.org to redacted contractor, date, September 12, 2025, regarding the layout for the dormitories. Mrs. Harrow wants to ensure the suite for the scholarship recipient is isolated from the main block. Also, we need to expedite the promotional materials. Please ensure the photographer is ready for the Thanksgiving shoot. We need to get the boy's signature on the scholarship packet by year end to secure the tax abatement for the 26 fiscal cycle. I stopped breathing. We need to get the boy's signature, not Liam's signature, not my grandson's signature, the boy's, and the date. September, 2 months before Thanksgiving. She had planned the Thanksgiving coaching session not to fix his handwriting, but to prep him. She had planned the photo. But more importantly, she needed his signature on a scholarship packet to secure a tax abatement. She was using Liam as a financial instrument. If he was the recipient of a scholarship from her foundation, she could likely funnel massive amounts of money into the foundation tax-free, claiming it was for educational grants, and if she controlled the scholarship, she controlled the money. But the phrase isolated from the main block regarding the dormitory suite made my skin crawl. She wasn't just building a school, she was building a cage. I realized with a jolt of horror that the enrichment opportunities and the boarding school talk weren't just snobbery, they were logistics. She needed him enrolled in her program to make the money laundering work. She needed physical custody of him, or at least educational custody, to satisfy the requirements of whatever tax loophole she was exploiting. I printed the email. My hands were shaking so hard the paper rattled. This was not just a controlling mother-in-law. This was a corporate raid on a child. Ethan walked into the kitchen. He looked tired, his eyes shadowed. "He is asleep," Ethan said. He asked if he could call Grandma. I told him her phone is broken. I looked at my husband. I looked at the man who had been shaped and molded by this woman, who had been trained to accept her abuse as affection. "Ethan," I said. He saw the look on my face and stopped. "What? What is it?" I slid the paper across the table. "She does not want to be his grandmother." I said, "She wants to be his owner." Ethan read the email. I watched his eyes scan the lines. I saw the moment he hit the phrase the boy's signature. I saw the moment he saw tax abatement. He looked up at me. "She is using him?" he whispered, "like a tax write-off?" "She is building a residential program." I said, "And she needs a scholarship recipient to legitimize it. That is why she wants him at St. Jude's or in her own program." "It is about the money. Ethan, it is always about the money." Ethan stared at the paper. For the first time, I didn't see sadness in his eyes. I didn't see conflict. I saw hate. It was a small, cold flame, but it was there. "She is not going to get him," he said. His voice was steady. "No." I said, "She is not," but we both knew that Vivian Harrow did not give up on an asset easily. She had the lawyers. She had the money. And now that we had cut her off, she was going to stop trying to be nice. The charm offensive was over. The legal siege was about to begin, and I knew, with a terrifying certainty, that Thanksgiving was not going to be a holiday this year. It was going to be a showdown. I looked at the calendar on the wall. It was June. We had 5 months until November. "We have to be ready," I said. Ethan nodded. He reached out and took my hand. His grip was tight. "Painful. I am with you," he said. "No matter what she does, I am with you." I squeezed his hand back. I wanted to believe him. I needed to believe him. But I remembered Marla's warning. She will try to stress your marriage until it cracks. We were united tonight, but Vivian Harrow had 5 months to break us apart, and she had 50 years of practice breaking the man holding my hand. I looked at the dark window, seeing my own reflection superimposed over the night. Bring it on. Vivian, I thought, but I didn't say it aloud. I saved my words. I had a feeling I was going to need them. The invitation arrived on heavy cream stock, edged in gold foil that caught the summer light and threw it back with a sharp, blinding glare. It was addressed to the Mitchell family, a collective noun that Vivian Harrow used like a brand she owned. It was for the inaugural gala of the Maple Ridge Education Alliance, to be held at the Harrow estate on the last Saturday of July. I held the card in my hand, feeling the weight of it. It was not just an invitation, it was a summons. If we did not go, Vivian would spin our absence into a tragedy. Poor Ethan is so controlled by his wife that she won't even let him support a charity for underprivileged children. She would whisper to the donors, "It is heartbreaking. Really, we just pray for them." If we did go, we were walking into a lion's den where the lion was wearing Chanel and holding a microphone. "We are going." I told Ethan that night as we stood in the kitchen. He looked up from his plate, surprised. "We are?" "I thought we were doing the no contact thing." "We are doing the controlled contact thing." I corrected. "If we stay home, she controls the narrative. She gets to tell everyone why Liam isn't there. She gets to use his photo on the brochures and shrug sadly. When people ask where the future scholar is, no, we go, we show up, we smile, and we make sure that every time she tries to use Liam as a prop, I am standing right there to block the shot." Ethan looked nervous. He had been nervous for weeks, ever since we revoked the power of attorney. The silence from Winding Birch had been deafening, and Ethan hated the silence. He was waiting for the other shoe to drop. "It will be a scene," he said. "It is already a scene. Ethan, we are just choosing to be actors in it instead of props." On the morning of the gala, the heat was oppressive. It was 90 degrees with humidity that made the air feel like wet wool. I dressed Liam in a light linen suit, brushing his hair back from his forehead. "Listen to me, buddy," I said, kneeling down to look him in the eye. Liam looked back at me, his expression serious. He had sensed the tension in the house, absorbing it like a sponge. "We are going to Grandma's house for a party," I said. "There are going to be a lot of people there. Cameras, strangers, loud music." "Okay," he said. "Here is the rule," I continued. "You stay attached to me or Daddy, like a magnet. If Grandma asks you to go somewhere with her, or if a photographer asks you to stand somewhere, you look for me." "What if I can't find you?" he asked. A little wobble in his voice. "I will be there, I promised. I will never be more than 2 feet away. But if you feel weird, or if someone is asking you questions you do not like, I want you to say the code words. Do you remember them?" "I need a drink," Liam recited. "Perfect. You say, 'I need a drink,' and we leave. Immediately. No goodbyes. We just walk to the car. Got it?" "Got it." We drove to Winding Birch in silence. The estate had been transformed. A massive white tent occupied the south lawn, festooned with floral arrangements that likely cost more than my first car. Valets in white jackets were parking luxury sedans. A string quartet was playing something classical and innocuous near the fountain. As we walked up the path, I saw the press. There were 2 photographers from the county paper and a videographer from a local news station. Vivian had pulled out all the stops. She wasn't just launching a charity. She was launching a legacy, and she needed witnesses. Ethan took my hand. His palm was damp. "Showtime," he muttered. Vivian was receiving guests at the entrance to the tent. She looked imperial in a floor-length gown of silver silk. When she saw us, her face lit up with a smile so radiant it looked painful. "Ethan! Brooklyn!" she cried, opening her arms. "And Liam!" She descended on us, perfume clouding the air. She reached for Liam, but I stepped slightly forward, placing my hand on Liam's shoulder, anchoring him to my side. "Hello, Vivian," I said. "It looks like a wonderful turnout." Vivian's eyes flickered to my hand on Liam's shoulder, then back to my face. "It is marvelous, isn't it? The whole county is here. The mayor just arrived." She bent down to Liam, ignoring the boundary I had just physically set. "Liam, my darling, look at you. You look like a little gentleman. I have someone very special I want you to meet. Mr. Sterling from the board is dying to say hello." Liam looked up at me. I squeezed his shoulder gently. "Maybe later." "Vivian," I said pleasantly, "we just got here. We are going to get some lemonade and say hello to Ethan's cousins." Vivian's smile didn't waver, but her eyes went cold. "Of course, mingle. But don't go too far. We have the presentation at 2 o'clock. We walked into the tent, It was cooler inside, powered by massive industrial fans. But the atmosphere was stifling. Everywhere I looked, I saw the brochures. They were on every table, Liam's face, my son's face, staring up from the white linen, selling a lie. I saw people looking at us. I saw them whisper, "That's the daughter-in-law." I imagined them saying, "The one Vivian told us about. The difficult one." Ethan was greeted warmly by men in suits who clapped him on the back. "Good to see you." "Mitch," one said, "your mom is doing great work. You must be proud." Ethan nodded, his jaw tight, very proud. I kept Liam between us as we navigated the room. We found a corner near the buffet where we could watch the floor without being surrounded. For an hour, it was a game of cat and mouse. Vivian would circle back to us, bringing a donor or a local celebrity. She would try to pull Liam into the conversation, try to prompt him to say how excited he was about the alliance. "So, Liam, are you looking forward to the new science programs?" she asked loudly. With the mayor standing right there, Liam looked at his shoes. "I like science," he mumbled. Vivian beamed at the mayor. "He is a prodigy. Truly, that is why this initiative is so personal for us." I stepped in. "He loves building Legos," I said, keeping my voice light, like any 8-year-old. Vivian laughed. A sharp, dismissive sound. "Always so humble. Brooklyn, you have to let him shine." Then came the moment she had engineered the entire afternoon for. The string quartet stopped playing. A hush fell over the crowd. Vivian walked to the podium, tapping the microphone. "Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here to support the Maple Ridge Education Alliance." She gave a speech about the future, about responsibility, about the sacred duty of the older generation to guide the younger. It was well-rehearsed and charismatic. She had the room in the palm of her hand. "And now," she said, gesturing toward us, "I would like to invite my son, Ethan, and my grandson, Liam, to join me for the official ribbon cutting of our new scholarship fund." The spotlight swung toward us. The room erupted in applause. Ethan froze. He looked at me. This was the ambush. If we refused, we looked like monsters. If we went up, we validated her use of Liam. I leaned down to Liam. "Do you want to go up there?" I whispered. Liam shook his head violently. "No, everyone is looking." I stood up. I looked at Ethan. "He doesn't want to go," I said. Ethan nodded. He turned to the room, raised a hand in a polite wave, and stayed exactly where he was. The applause faltered. The spotlight stayed on us. Vivian stood on the stage, her hand extended, waiting. "Come on up," she encouraged, her voice straining with forced cheer. "Don't be shy." Ethan shook his head, mouthing "no." The silence stretched. It was agonizing. 300 people were watching a family power struggle play out in real time. Finally, Vivian laughed. It was a brittle sound. "Well, it seems our guest of honor is a bit stage fright today. We will let him enjoy his lemonade." She signaled the photographer, who had been creeping toward us, to return to the stage. She cut the ribbon alone, smiling fiercely, but I saw the tremor in her hand. 10 minutes later, she found us. We were near the exit, getting ready to leave. She cornered us by a large floral arrangement. "You humiliated me," she hissed. Her face was flushed, her eyes wet with rage. "No." "Vivian," I said calmly, "you tried to force a child onto a stage without asking him. He is not a prop. He is my grandson," she snapped. "He is part of this family. People expect to see him. People expect what you tell them to expect." Ethan said. His voice was low but firm. "We told you no. Mom, we told you no photos." Vivian turned her glare on him. "You are pathetic. Ethan, hiding behind your wife's skirt. Do you have any idea how much money was in that room? Do you have any idea what I'm building for you? I do not want it," Ethan said. Vivian stepped closer, dropping her voice. "You might not want it, but you need it. You think you can just walk away? You think you are independent? You have no idea how the world works." I took Liam's hand. "I need a drink," Liam said clearly. I looked down at him. He was pale. "We are leaving," I said. We walked past her. As I brushed by, she grabbed my arm. Her grip was surprisingly strong. "This is not over," she whispered. "You think you won today because you embarrassed me? You just made yourself a target." I pulled my arm free. "Goodbye, Vivian." We drove home in a silence that was different from the drive up. It wasn't tense. It was exhausted. We had survived the battle, but the war felt heavier than ever. 2 days later, the financial trap sprung. Ethan was in his home office, going through the mail. I heard a sound, a sharp intake of breath, then the sound of a chair scraping back. I ran into the room. "Ethan?" He was staring at a letter. His face was gray. "What is it?" I asked. He handed me the paper. It was a notification from a bank I didn't recognize. First Keystone National. Dear Mr. Mitchell, this letter is to inform you that your account ending in 4590 has been flagged for unusual activity regarding 2 wire transfers originating from Veritas Holdings, LLC, in the amount of $14,000 each. Please contact our fraud department immediately to verify these transactions. I looked at Ethan. "We do not have an account at First Keystone." I said, "I know." Ethan said, "I have never banked there in my life." I grabbed the laptop. "Call the number." I said, "Put it on speaker." Ethan dialed. His hands were shaking. He navigated the automated menu until he got a human. "This is Ethan Mitchell," he said. "I received a letter about an account I did not open." The representative asked for his social security number. Ethan gave it. There was a pause. "Mr. Mitchell, I see the account here. It was opened in August of last year. It is a checking account under your name and social." "Who opened it?" Ethan demanded. Let me see. It lists a secondary authorized user, Vivian Harrow." Ethan closed his eyes. "And the activity?" I whispered. "There have been monthly deposits from a company called Veritas Holdings." The representative said, "And corresponding transfers out to an offshore entity called HHL Global. The total volume is just under $200,000. I felt the blood drain from my face. $200,000. Moved through an account in Ethan's name. "Close it," Ethan said. "Close it right now. I did not authorize this. I cannot close it over the phone." "Sir," the representative said, "the account is currently frozen pending investigation. If these transfers are not verified, we are required to file a suspicious activity report with the IRS." Ethan hung up the phone and stared at the wall. "She set me up," he whispered. I sat down next to him, my mind racing, connecting the dots. Veritas Holdings. That was the shell company I had found in the zoning documents, the one building the residential program. "She is laundering money," I said. "She is moving money from her shell company, through an account in your name, and sending it offshore. She is using your identity to create a layer of distance between herself and the funds." "And the power of attorney?" Ethan asked. "That is how she opened the account." I said, "That stack of papers you signed in August? It gave her the legal right to open bank accounts in your name. Technically, she didn't forge your signature on the bank docs. You gave her permission. But the taxes," Ethan said, panic rising in his voice. "If that money is in my name, I am liable for the taxes on it. $200,000 of unreported income? Brooklyn. That is tax evasion. That is a felony. That is the leash." I said. I saw the horrifying brilliance of it. She hadn't just stolen his identity. She had implicated him. If he tried to cut her off, if he tried to expose the foundation, she could point to this account. She could say, Ethan was the one receiving the funds. Ethan was the one moving the money. She had created a situation where if she went down, he went down with her. She protected the family by making sure the family couldn't survive without her protection. Ethan stood up. "I am going there," he said. "Ethan, wait. We need to call Marla." "No," he shouted. "No more lawyers. I am done with letters. I am going to look her in the eye and ask her why she is trying to send her own son to prison." He grabbed his keys. "I am coming with you." I said, "No, you stay with Liam. I need to do this alone." He stormed out before I could stop him. I watched his car peel out of the driveway. I was terrified. Not that she would hurt him physically, but that she would spin him around again. I waited 3 hours. When Ethan returned, it was dark. He walked into the kitchen and sat down at the table. He didn't look angry anymore. He looked hollowed out. "What happened?" I asked, placing a hand on his arm. He stared at the grain of the wood table. "She cried." He said, "Of course she did. She said I was ungrateful." He continued, his voice monotone. "She said she set up that account to build a nest egg for us. She said Veritas Holdings is a legitimate consulting firm, and the transfers were consulting fees she was allocating to me for my role in the foundation." "You do not have a role in the foundation. Ethan, she said she was planning to surprise us with the money." He said, "She said she was paying the taxes on it through the corporate entity. She said I was reacting like a paranoid child." "And the offshore transfers?" I asked. "She said that was investment diversification." She had an answer for everything. "Brooke," and she made me feel like I was crazy for questioning her generosity. He looked up at me, and I saw the crack in his resolve. Then she got angry. She stopped crying and she looked at me, really looked at me, and she said, "Brooklyn is poisoning you against me. None of this was a problem until she started digging. She is trying to destroy this family because she is jealous of what we have." I felt a cold spike of anger. She committed a felony. "Ethan, she said if I go to the authorities, I will be the one in trouble," he said quietly. She said, "Who are they going to believe? The pillar of the community? Or the son who signed the power of attorney and then claimed he didn't know what he was doing?" He put his head in his hands. "She has me, Brooke. She has me by the throat." I stood up. I walked to the counter where I had left my phone. "No," I said, "she doesn't." "What are you doing?" Ethan asked. "I am calling the police." I said, "Not about the bank account. Not yet. About the forgery. About the school forms. About the identity theft." Ethan stood up. "Brooke, you can't. If you file a police report, it becomes public record. The press will find out. It will destroy her reputation." "Good," I said. "She is my mother. She is a criminal." "Ethan," I shouted, "she is stealing from you. She is using our son. I am done playing nice. I am done worrying about her reputation." "She threatened me?" "Fine. I am calling her bluff." I dialed the non-emergency line for the county police. Ethan watched me, his face torn between terror and relief. He didn't try to stop me. I filed the report. I gave them the dates. I gave them the copies of the forged consent forms. I gave them the recording of her threat. The officer on the line sounded bored at first, then interested. "We will send a detective to take a formal statement, ma'am," he said. The next day, the nuclear fallout began. Vivian didn't call. She was too smart for that, but the family did. I got a call from Ethan's Aunt Carol. "I heard what you did," she said, her voice trembling with indignation. "You filed a police report against your mother-in-law? Over a permission slip? Have you lost your mind?" "It was not just a permission slip, Carol." I said, "You are tearing this family apart." She spat. "Vivian is devastated. She has done everything for you. And this is how you repay her? By treating her like a common criminal?" Ethan's phone blew up with texts from cousins, uncles, old family friends. They all had the same message. "Control your wife. Fix this. You are embarrassing the Harrows. We were pariahs." But then, a crack appeared in the wall of hostility. I was at the grocery store. 3 days after filing the report, I turned into the cereal aisle and saw Ethan's sister, Sarah. She had flown in from California, ostensibly to mediate, which usually meant bullying Ethan into submission. I braced myself for a confrontation. Sarah saw me. She looked around to see if anyone was watching. Then she walked over to my cart. She didn't look angry. She looked tired. "Brooklyn," she said. "Sarah, I heard about the bank account." She said quietly, "Ethan told me." I waited. Mom told me it was a misunderstanding. Sarah said, "She gave me the whole spiel, but—" She hesitated, looking at a box of cornflakes. "She did the same thing to me." Sarah whispered, 5 years ago. I stared at her. "What?" She opened a credit line in my name. Sarah said. To buy a rental property. I didn't find out until I applied for a car loan and got rejected because my debt-to-income ratio was skewered. When I confronted her, she said she was building my portfolio. Why didn't you tell us? I asked. Because she fixed it, Sarah said. She paid it off. She cried. She made me feel like I was ungrateful. And I was scared. She looked at me, her eyes intense. She is scared right now. Brooklyn, I have never seen her this scared. She is calling everyone, rallying the troops. She knows you filed the report. Good. I said. Be careful. Sarah said. Scared Vivian is dangerous. She is not going to hit you. She isn't violent like that. She is strategic. She will burn everything down before she lets you win. She will go after your job. She will go after your house. She will go after custody. She is ruthless. I know. I said. Just watch your back, Sarah said, and watch Ethan. She knows he's the weak link. She turned and walked away before I could say anything else that night. My phone buzzed. It was a text from a number I had blocked, but somehow it came through. Perhaps she used an internet service, or a burner. There was no name, but I knew the voice. Thanksgiving will be different this year, I promise. I looked at the screen. It was August. Thanksgiving was 3 months away. It wasn't an invitation, it was a deadline. She was telling me that by November, she would be done with me. By November, she would have reclaimed Ethan, reclaimed Liam, and erased me from the picture. I showed the text to Ethan. He read it and went pale. What does she mean? He asked. She means war. I said. I looked at the 6 words on the screen. Thanksgiving will be different this year. She was right. It would be different. Because for the first time, I wasn't going to be the polite guest. I wasn't going to be the victim. I was going to be the prosecutor. The cease and desist letter left Marla Kent's office on a Tuesday morning in late October. It was a beautiful, terrifying document. 5 pages of dense legal prose that stripped away every euphemism Vivian Harrow had ever used to disguise her control. It demanded the immediate cessation of using Liam's name or likeness. It demanded the retraction of the Maple Ridge Education Alliance brochures. It demanded she stop contacting Liam's school. It stated, in no uncertain terms, that any further attempts to bypass parental consent would result in immediate litigation for harassment and identity theft. I felt a grim satisfaction as I imagined it landing on her mahogany desk. I imagined her reading it, her manicured nails tapping against the paper. We waited for the explosion. We waited for the angry phone call, the threats, the lawyers. Instead, we got a dove. Or rather, a heavy cream-colored envelope that arrived by courier 3 days later. Inside was a handwritten note on her personal stationery. My dearest Ethan and Brooklyn, I received the letter from your attorney. It breaks my heart that we have reached a point where lawyers are speaking for us. I realized reading it that I have perhaps been too zealous in my desire to secure a future for this family. My passion sometimes outruns my prudence. I want to fix this. I am hosting Thanksgiving this year, not as a gala, but as a family reconciliation. Just us. Please, let us break bread and find a way forward. Love, Mom, P.S., Ethan. I was going through your father's old safe and I found his 1968 Omega Speedmaster, the one he wore every day. I know you have been looking for it for years. I have it polished and waiting for you. I read the letter and looked at Ethan. He was staring at the PES, his eyes watery. It is a trap, I said. I know, he whispered. But the Speedmaster. She told me she lost it. She told me it was stolen by the movers when he died. She lied. Ethan, she kept it. She kept it for exactly this moment. It is leverage. She is trading your father's memory for your attendance. Ethan rubbed his face. I have to go get it. Brooke, it is the only thing of his I really care about. If I don't go, she will lose it again, or she will give it to Mark just to spite me. I looked at the invitation. It was not a peace offering. It was a hostage negotiation. We are not going to eat, I said. We are going to retrieve the watch, survive the performance, and leave. Ethan nodded. Okay, we go. We get the watch. We leave. We spent the next week drafting the rules of engagement. It felt less like planning a holiday dinner and more like prepping for a tactical extraction in hostile territory. Rule number 1. We arrive together and we leave together. No splitting up. Rule number 2. No private conversations. If she asks you to step into the library, you say no. If she tries to corner me in the kitchen, you intervene. Rule number 3. My phone stays in my hand, fully charged. Voice memo app open on the lock screen. Rule number 4. We do not drink, not a drop. She likes to pour heavy when she wants to loosen tongues. We stay sober. We arrived at Winding Birch at 4 p.m. The sky was a bruised purple, heavy with clouds. The estate looked almost welcoming, with warm yellow light spilling from every window, but the moment we stepped into the foyer, I knew the just family promise was a lie. The house did not smell like turkey and sage. It smelled of expensive floral arrangements, white lilies, thousands of them, and the decor was not festive. It was branded. On the table in the entryway, where normally there would be a cornucopia or pumpkins, there was a stack of brochures for the Maple Ridge Education Alliance. The cocktail napkins were stamped with the foundation's logo in gold foil, and on the far wall of the living room, Vivian had constructed a gratitude wall. It was a massive corkboard covered in velvet, pinned with notes. I am grateful for generosity. I am grateful for vision. I am grateful for the Harrow legacy. It looked like a campaign set. Vivian swept toward us, wearing a dress that cost more than my car. She looked serene, almost beatific. You came, she breathed. Reaching out to hug Ethan, she held him a second too long, performing the relief of a grieving mother. Then she turned to me. Brooklyn, thank you for bringing them. She didn't hug me. She offered a cheek, which I didn't kiss. Hello, Vivian, I said. And Liam, she cried, looking down at my son. Liam was holding my hand so tight his knuckles were white. Hi, Grandma, he whispered. Come, come, everyone is in the great room, she said. Ushering us forward, everyone turned out to be a carefully curated audience. There was Ethan's brother, Mark, and his wife, looking nervous. There was Aunt Carol, looking pious. But then I saw the others. Standing by the fireplace was Leonard Vance, the largest real estate developer in the county and a major donor to the foundation, and next to him, sipping sparkling water, was Patricia Reed. I recognized Patricia. She was the senior features editor for the Winding Birch Gazette. She had written the glowing profile on Vivian last year. My stomach dropped. Vivian, I said, keeping my voice low. Who are these people? Oh, Vivian laughed lightly. Just a few dear friends who had nowhere else to go today. I couldn't leave them alone on the holiday. Could I? That wouldn't be very Harrow of me. She had invited a reporter to a reconciliation dinner. This wasn't a meal. It was a press conference. She wanted a witness to the happy family reunion. She wanted Patricia to write a story about how the Harrows had overcome their private struggles to unite for the greater good. If we made a scene. Patricia would write that too. Unstable daughter-in-law ruins charity dinner. Vivian had chosen the battlefield perfectly. I looked at Ethan. He had seen them too. His jaw was set so hard, I thought his teeth might crack. The watch. He whispered to me, we get the watch, and we go. We navigated the room like soldiers in a minefield. I kept Liam between us and the wall. Vivian circulated, playing the perfect hostess. She made sure to touch Ethan's arm whenever Leonard Vance was looking. She made sure to laugh delightedly at Liam's silence whenever Patricia was near. Then, she cornered me. I was standing near the gratitude wall, examining a note that said, I am grateful for second chances, Brooklyn. She said softly. I turned. She was alone, for a brief second. I wanted to say something, she began, her voice dropping to a register of intimate concern. I read your lawyer's letter, and I just want to say, I am sorry that you felt so attacked by my actions. I stared at her. You are sorry I felt attacked? I repeated. I never intended to overstep. She continued, smoothing the front of her silk dress. I sometimes forget that not everyone understands the complexities of how we operate, the fundraising, the publicity. It is a language we have spoken for generations. I assumed you would be flattered to have Liam included. It was a misunderstanding of cultures, really. It was a masterpiece of non-apology. She blamed my feelings and my background, taking zero responsibility for the forgery or the fraud. You forged my signature. Vivian, I said quietly, that is not a culture clash. That is a crime. She sighed, a sound of immense patience. There is that word again, forgery. It is so harsh. Dear, I acted as a proxy. But let us not dwell on semantics. The point is, I want us to move past this. For Ethan's sake. He looks so tired, doesn't he? She looked across the room at Ethan, who was being cornered by Leonard Vance. He needs his family. Brooklyn. He needs stability. And frankly, this legal posturing is draining the resources I intended to leave to him. It was a threat wrapped in concern. Keep suing me, and I will write him out of the will. I am not posturing. I said, I am protecting my son. Vivian's smile tightened. Well, let us hope you do not protect him right out of his inheritance. She patted my arm and walked away. I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the drafty windows. I went to find Liam. He was sitting on a velvet ottoman, looking miserable. A young man in a black server's uniform was standing near him, holding a tray of hors d'oeuvres, but the man wasn't serving. He was watching Liam. I stepped closer, tuning in. So you go to Ridgefield Elementary? The man was asking. That is the red brick building on 4th Street, right? Liam nodded. Do you take the bus? Or does your mom pick you up? I stepped in between them. Excuse me, I said. The man jumped. He was young, maybe 25, with shifting eyes. Can I get you a drink? Ma'am? He asked quickly. Why are you asking my son about his school? I demanded. Just making conversation, he said. Cute kid. What is your name? I asked. I'm just temp staff for the caterer, he stammered. He turned and walked away fast, disappearing into the kitchen. My heart was hammering. He wasn't a waiter. He was scouting. He was asking about the pickup routine. Does your mom pick you up? She was looking for holes in the security. I grabbed Liam's hand. We are finding Daddy, I said. We found Ethan by the bar. He was holding a glass of soda water, looking pale. Ethan, I whispered, we need to leave. Now. There's a guy asking Liam about his school pickup. And Vivian just threatened to disinherit you if we don't drop the legal case. Ethan looked at me. The watch, he said. She said she would give it to me before dinner. Go ask her. I said, do it now. Ethan nodded. He walked over to Vivian, who was holding court with Patricia Reed. I watched from a distance. I saw Ethan speak. I saw Vivian smile, a sad, brave smile, and touch his cheek. She said something to the group, then took Ethan's arm and led him toward the study. I followed, keeping a 10-foot distance, dragging Liam with me. They went into the study. The door was left open, a performance of transparency. I stood near the doorway, listening. Here it is, Vivian said. I heard the click of a box opening. My breath caught. Maybe she was actually giving it to him. Oh, Ethan, she said, her voice trembling. Do you remember when he bought this? We were in Geneva. He was so proud. I remember, Ethan said. His voice was thick. I want you to have it, she said. I really do. But I am worried, Ethan. Worried about what? I am worried that it is not safe with you. Not right now. What? Everything is so volatile in your house, she said, with Brooklyn's paranoia. And these legal threats. I feel like if I give you this watch, she might sell it or throw it away just because it came from me. She is not going to sell it. Mom, give me the watch. I can't, she whispered. Not until I know you are back in control. Not until you drop this silly police report and call off that aggressive lawyer. Show me you are a hero. Ethan, show me you prioritize family over her vendettas. Then the watch is yours. Silence. You dangled this in front of me to get me here, Ethan said. His voice was shaking with rage. You lied. I am protecting your legacy, she cried, just like I protected your bank account. I stepped into the doorway. Ethan, I said, let's go. Vivian spun around. Her eyes were hard as diamonds. This is a private conversation, she snapped. There are no private conversations, I said. You are blackmailing him with his dead father's watch. It is sick. Vivian. She slammed the watch box shut. Get out of my house, she hissed. Not until we finish this charade, Ethan said. He turned to me. He looked devastated, but his eyes were clear. She is not going to give it to me. Brooke, she never was. We are leaving, I said. We turned to go, but as we walked back into the hallway, the dinner bell rang. Patricia Reed was standing right there. Leaving so soon? She asked, her pen poised over a notebook. Vivian swept out of the study, her mask back in place instantly. Oh, no, they are just freshening up. Dinner is served. Everyone, please, come to the dining room. She looked at me, and her eyes dared me. Go ahead. Leave. Make a scene in front of the reporter. Storm out while I cry about how hard I tried. If we left now, without sitting down, Patricia would write the story Vivian wanted. Estranged son storms out of reconciliation dinner. If we stayed, we were trapped. I looked at Ethan. He gave a microscopic nod. 1 hour. We walked into the dining room. It was a spectacle. The table was set for 20. The centerpiece was a sprawling arrangement of orchids and silver branches. Vivian sat at the head. She placed Leonard Vance to her right and Patricia Reed to her left. She placed Ethan next to Patricia. She placed me at the far end, next to Aunt Carol. She separated us. Rule number 1, broken. I sat down. My phone buzzed in my clutch purse. I ignored it. I was watching the waiter, the one who had questioned Liam. He was pouring wine. Vivian stood up to give a toast. Friends, family, she began, raising her glass. Tonight is a special night. We are launching the next phase of the Harrow Hearthlight Foundation. And we are celebrating the return of my son and his beautiful family to the fold. She smiled at Ethan. He stared at his plate. I want to announce that, in honor of this reunion, the foundation is pledging $2 million to build the Harrow Residential Academy for Gifted Youth. Applause. Leonard Vance clapped loudly. And, she continued, her eyes locking onto mine, I am thrilled to announce that the first scholarship recipient, who will break ground with us, is our very own Liam Mitchell. The room went silent. She had done it. She had announced it in front of the press. She had staked her claim publicly. If we denied it now, we were denying a gift to our son. Patricia Reed turned to Ethan. That is wonderful news. Mr. Mitchell, is Liam excited about the boarding program? Ethan looked up. He opened his mouth. My phone buzzed again, and again. I looked down. It was an email notification. Subject, the truth. Sender, anonymous. I slid the phone onto my lap, under the napkin. I opened the email. There were 2 attachments. The first was a PDF. It was the metadata analysis of the forged consent form. It showed the creation date, the author, Vivian Harrow, and the software used. It proved, definitively, that the signature was copy-pasted from an old Christmas card scan. But the second attachment was the bomb. It was a ledger. Veritas Holdings, FY25. Expense report. I scrolled through it. October 12th, $15,000. Interior design. Private residence. November 1st, $4,000. Spa services. The Four Seasons. November 15th, $25,000. Retainer. Caldwell Mott Legal Group. November 20th, $50,000. Political contribution. Mayor's Re-Election Fund. All paid for with funds marked charitable outreach. She was using the charity money to pay her personal bills, her legal fees to fight us, and to bribe the mayor. And the email had a short message in the body. I can't do it anymore. She is going to ruin us all. Use this. I looked up. I scanned the room. My eyes landed on Vivian's assistant, a quiet woman named Joyce who was standing by the kitchen door, holding a clipboard. Joyce looked at me. Her face was pale, terrified. She gave a tiny, almost imperceptible nod. It was her, the insider. She had broken. I looked at Vivian. She was beaming, basking in the applause. She thought she had won. She thought she had cornered us into silence with the pressure of the press and the donors. She was waiting for me to scream. She was waiting for me to flip the table. She wanted the unstable Brooklyn photo for the morning paper. I felt a cold calm settle over me. It was the same calm I had felt the night she slapped Liam, but this time, I had ammunition. I wasn't going to scream. I touched the voice memo app on my phone. Recording. I looked at Ethan. He was looking at me. Panic in his eyes. Waiting for my signal. I tapped the table twice with my finger. Our signal. Hold. I smiled at Aunt Carol. Isn't it lovely? I said, my voice clear and caring in the sudden lull. Vivian looked at me. Surprised by my composure, I stood up. I picked up my glass of water. I would like to add to the toast. I said. Vivian's smile faltered. Brooklyn, dear, she said warningly, let's not. To the truth, I said. I looked directly at Patricia Reed, and to accurate reporting. I sat back down. The tension in the room was sharp enough to cut the branded napkins. Vivian laughed, a harsh sound. Well, to the truth, she drank. I didn't drink. I just held my phone. I had the ledger. I had the forgery proof. And now, I had her on record announcing a fraudulent scholarship in front of a reporter. She wanted a show? I was going to give her a finale she would never forget. But not yet. Not while Liam was in the room. I waited for the turkey to be served. The first course was pumpkin bisque, served in china bowls that likely cost more than my first semester of college tuition. The steam rose in delicate, fragrant spirals, smelling of cream and nutmeg. But I could not eat. My stomach was a knot of cold iron. Under the table, my hand rested on my clutch purse, feeling the hard rectangular edge of my phone and the folded sheaf of papers I had transferred from my bag. Vivian sat at the head of the table. A queen in her element, the dining room was bathed in the warm, golden glow of the chandelier. A stark contrast to the cold calculation in her eyes. Patricia Reed, the reporter, was taking small, polite bites of her soup, her eyes darting around the room, absorbing the atmosphere of reconciliation. Isn't this lovely? Vivian cooed, looking down the long table. It has been too long since we were all together like this, a family united. She rested her gaze on Liam, who was sitting between Ethan and me. He was pushing his spoon around the orange liquid, his shoulders hunched. Eat up, Liam, Vivian said, her voice dropping to that theatrical, possessive register she used for audiences. We want our boy to be strong for his big year ahead. Our boy. She said it with a weight that laid claim to him. She wasn't just speaking to us. She was speaking to the donors, to the reporter. She was branding him. Ethan stiffened beside me. I reached under the table and squeezed his knee. Not yet. I signaled. Wait. I kept my face calm, a mask of polite interest. I took a sip of water. I watched the waiter, the scout, refill Leonard Vance's wine glass. As the main course was cleared, Vivian clapped her hands lightly. Before we have dessert, she announced, beaming, I have a little surprise, a legacy gift for my grandson. She reached under her chair and produced a box wrapped in the signature navy blue and silver paper of the Harrow Hearthlight Foundation. She walked around the table to where Liam sat. The room went silent. The photographer, who had been lurking in the shadows, stepped forward, his lens focusing. Open it, darling, Vivian urged. Liam looked at me. I nodded. He tore the paper. Inside was a sleek, black box. He lifted the lid to reveal a smartwatch. It was heavy, expensive, with a titanium band. It is the Guardian series, Vivian explained to the table. Though her eyes were on the reporter, it has state-of-the-art GPS, cellular connectivity, and a direct line to emergency services. And of course, it links directly to my phone and the Foundation's security team. So no matter where he is, at school, at the boarding academy, or on a field trip, we will always know he is safe. She smiled at me. Safety is our priority, isn't it, Brooklyn? I looked at the watch. It wasn't a gift. It was an ankle monitor for a wrist. It was a tracking device that gave her 24-hour surveillance access to my son. Framed as a grandmother's love. She wanted to track him. She wanted to listen in. I hear you. Vivian, I said, my voice steady. It is certainly a powerful device. Vivian took the watch from the box. Let me put it on you. Liam pulled his hand back. I do not want to wear it, he said. It looks heavy. Vivian laughed. A tinkling sound that didn't reach her eyes. Oh, nonsense. You will get used to it. It is what the big boys wear. She reached for his wrist again. He said he doesn't want to wear it. I said. Vivian froze. She looked at me, her smile tight. We can adjust the fit later, she said dismissively. Now, Liam, I believe you have something for us? The gratitude project you mentioned earlier? She was pivoting. She wanted the photo op of the dutiful grandson reading his thanks. She wanted the soundbite for the website. Liam reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded piece of notebook paper. It wasn't the cream cardstock she had tried to force on him. It was the original paper, crinkled and soft. Stand up, sweetheart, Vivian commanded. Read it to the room. Liam stood up. He looked small against the high-backed chair. He looked at the donors. He looked at the reporter. Then he looked at me. I am thankful for my dad. Liam read, his voice clear but trembling. Because he plays catch with me even when he is tired. A murmur of appreciation went around the table. Vivian nodded. Pleased. And I am thankful for my mom. Liam continued. He took a breath. Because she keeps me safe when grown-ups argue, and she tells me I am enough just the way I am. Even when I have messy handwriting. The silence that followed was absolute. It wasn't the polished, corporate gratitude Vivian had engineered. It was a raw, piercing arrow of truth. Safe when grown-ups argue. It painted a picture of a home under siege, and it identified the protector. And it wasn't Vivian. Patricia Reed stopped writing. She looked up. Her expression sharp. Vivian's smile faltered. The corners of her mouth twitched. She looked at the donors. Seeing the confusion on their faces, she saw her narrative slipping. She moved fast. Oh, Liam, she said, laughing loudly. Too loudly. That is very sweet, but I think you got a little confused with the phrasing. Remember what we practiced? She reached for the paper in his hand. Let Grandma see that. We can fix it before we put it on the website. She was treating his voice like a rough draft. She was trying to edit his soul in real time. Liam shrank back, clutching the paper to his chest. No, he said. Give it to me. Liam, Vivian snapped, her voice dropping the grandmotherly facade. It is inappropriate. She lunged for the paper. I moved. I didn't think. I stood up and stepped between them, placing my body as a shield between Vivian and my son. Do not touch him, I said. The room gasped. Vivian stopped. She was inches from my face. I could see the heavy foundation settling into the lines around her eyes. I could smell the expensive wine on her breath. Move, Brooklyn, she whispered. You are making a scene. He is done. Vivian, I said, my voice low but carrying in the dead silence. He is not reading your script. He is speaking his truth, and you are going to let him finish. Vivian's chest heaved. She looked at the reporter, who was watching with wide eyes. She looked at Leonard Vance, who looked uncomfortable. She was losing control. The one thing she feared more than death was losing control in public. And I was the one taking it from her. You insolent little... she hissed. Her mask slipped completely. The rage she had been bottling for months, the fury of a narcissist denied, erupted. In one sharp, impulsive motion, she raised her hand and struck me across the face. Crack! The sound was shockingly loud, like a gunshot in a canyon. My head snapped to the side. The sting was immediate, hot and blooming across my cheek. The room turned to stone. No one moved. No one breathed. The only sound was the hum of the refrigerator from the kitchen and the soft click of a shutter. Someone had taken a picture. I slowly turned my head back to face her. My cheek throbbed, but I felt a strange, icy clarity. Vivian stood there, her hand hovering in the air, her eyes wide with shock. She hadn't meant to do it. Not here, not in front of them. It was a glitch in her programming, a short circuit caused by defiance. Ethan stood up. The chair scraped violently against the floor. He looked at his mother. His face was drained of blood, looking like gray ash. For 30 years, he had made excuses for her. She is just intense. She is just protective. She loves us in her own way. But you cannot excuse a slap. You cannot interpret violence as love. He looked at me, at the red mark forming on my skin, and I saw the cord finally snap. "Mom," he whispered. Vivian tried to recover. She lowered her hand, trembling. She provoked me," Vivian stammered, looking at Leonard Vance. "You saw it. She is hysterical. She is trying to turn my grandson against me. I had to. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't give her the reaction she wanted. I looked straight into her eyes. I let her see that I wasn't afraid. I wasn't the girl from the library anymore. I was the mother she had warned me about. 'Leave,' I said. The word hung in the air. Vivian blinked. 'Excuse me? This is my house.' I took a step forward, forcing her to take a step back. 'Leave,' I repeated. 'You are not welcome back.' I wasn't talking about the room. I was talking about our lives. I was talking about the space she had occupied in our marriage, in our minds, in our fears. I was evicting her from our existence." Vivian laughed, a high, frantic sound. "You are insane," she said, turning to the reporter. "Write that down. Patricia, she is unstable. She just assaulted me verbally in my own home. I want her removed." She gestured to the waiter. The scout. "Call the police," Vivian shrieked. "Get this woman out of here." I reached into my bag. "No need," I said calmly. I pulled out the folder. I pulled out the printed metadata of the forged consent form. I pulled out the email from her assistant regarding the tax abatement. I pulled out the ledger showing the payments to the mayor's re-election fund and her own legal bills paid with charity dollars. And I pulled out the bank transfer records linking Veritas Holdings to Ethan's fraudulent account. I tossed the stack of papers onto the center of the dining table. They fanned out, sliding over the polished wood, coming to rest in front of Patricia Reed. "What is this?" Vivian whispered. "That is the proof." I said. "Proof of what?" She spat. "Proof that you forged my signature on a legal document to use my son as a marketing prop." I said, my voice ringing clear. "Proof that you opened a bank account in Ethan's name without his knowledge to launder money through a shell company. Proof that you are using the Harrow Hearthlight Foundation to pay for your spa treatments and your political bribes." Leonard Vance picked up a sheet. It was the ledger. His eyes scanned it. His face went purple. "Vivian?" Leonard asked, his voice shaking. Is this the mayor's fund? From the scholarship account?" Vivian lunged for the papers. "That is private. That is stolen." But Patricia Reed was faster. She placed her hand over the documents. She looked at the ledger, then at Vivian. "Mrs. Harrow," Patricia said, her voice professional and cold. "Did you authorize these transfers?" Vivian looked around the room. She looked for an ally. She looked for a way out. "It is a fabrication," she screamed, pointing at me. "She typed it up. She's trying to frame me." I pressed play on my phone. The recording from the study, from 20 minutes ago, filled the room. "I feel like if I give you this watch, she might sell it. Not until you drop this silly police report. Show me you prioritize family over her vendettas." Then I skipped forward. "Proof that you opened a bank account." "No. Wait." I played the recording of her threat from August. "If you embarrass me, you will regret it. I can make your life very difficult." The audio was undeniable. It wasn't the voice of a philanthropist. It was the voice of a tyrant. Ethan walked around the table. He stood next to me. He put his arm around my waist, pulling me close. "It is over." "Mom," Ethan said. Vivian looked at him. She looked small suddenly. The grandeur of the room seemed to swallow her. "Ethan," she whispered, "I did it for you. I built all of this for you. You built a cage," Ethan said, "and you tried to put my son in it." He looked at the reporter. "You can keep the papers." "Patricia, we have copies for the police." The room turned in real time. I watched it happen. Leonard Vance stood up and threw his napkin on the table. He didn't say a word to Vivian. He just walked out. The other donors followed. Patricia Reed tucked the documents into her bag. She looked at Vivian with a mix of pity and professional hunger. She had her story. It wasn't the reconciliation, it was the fall of the House of Harrow. Vivian stood alone at the head of the table. Her carefully built public identity was fracturing, not with shouting, but with the weight of documentation and the silence of the people she thought she owned. She looked at me. There was no anger left in her eyes, just fear, the naked, trembling fear of a woman who has lost her audience. I took Liam's hand. "Let's go home," I said. We walked out of the dining room. We walked through the foyer, past the gratitude wall, past the brochures with my son's face on them. As we reached the heavy oak door, I heard a sound from the dining room. It was the sound of a glass shattering against a wall, followed by a wail that sounded less like a human and more like a ghost being exorcised. We didn't look back. We walked out into the cool night air. The sky was clear now, the stars sharp and bright above the winding birch trees. We reached the car. Ethan buckled Liam in. He checked the seatbelt twice, his hands lingering on his son's chest. "You okay, buddy?" Ethan asked. Liam nodded. "Is Grandma going to jail?" he asked. "I do not know," Ethan said, "but she is not going to hurt us anymore." Ethan got into the driver's seat. He looked at me. He reached out and touched my cheek, his fingers grazing the spot where she had hit me. "I am so sorry," he whispered. I covered his hand with mine. "Drive," I said. He started the car. We pulled away from the estate, the gravel crunching under our tires one last time. I looked in the side mirror. The house was glowing on the hill, magnificent and rotting from the inside out. I had 6 words left in my head, but I didn't need to say them. "You are not welcome back." I deleted the contact Vivian Harrow from my phone, and for the first time in 10 years, the road ahead was completely, beautifully empty. Thank you so much for listening to the story of Brooklyn and her battle for her family. I hope you enjoyed this journey of justice and resilience. Please let me know in the comments where you are listening from. I love seeing how far these stories travel. If you enjoyed this series, please subscribe to Revenge Stories for more dramatic tales. And share your thoughts on the ending in English. I can't wait to hear from you.